Everyone.
Wait
It's great to see you all here. Good morning, good
a minute.
afternoon, good evening.
I don't think we have good evenings. Not yet. MJ is not here yet.
Yeah, right. So before we start, just say that this webinar will be recorded. Oh, there she is, MJ. So this webinar will be recorded and will be available for you on our platform and also on the YouTube. So thanks, Martino, and thank you all for the presence. We'll give the floor to Cid Blanco, our dear professor and facilitator today. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, because MJ is with us today, so we also have a good evening. It's so good to see all of you again. For those who are in first time here, welcome. We have a big group, a very good one. And I think we're going to have a great day today. The debate on Saturday was amazing, like always. Soon you're going to be able to see the video. We had a lot of fun. And I would like to ask our colleague Martino from UN Habitat to make opening while some of your colleagues are still arriving. At least today is not, no, it's early for Edgar. For me, it's 10. No, it's not early. It's 8 o'clock. Edgar is already in the office. We had a colleague on Saturday that she started with us at 6 a.m. And MJ was 8 p.m. Probably to MJ is 10 p.m. now. So we're going to have fun.
Who's that guy in Canada?
Sorry, Edgar.
Who is that guy? Who's that guy at 6 in the morning?
Berenice from Mexico.
Canada?
Just Berenice.
Okay.
She's not here today.
Okay.
Please, Martino.
Thank you, Sid. Thank you, everyone. Hi, Silvia.
Hi, how are you?
We were former colleagues in Brussels and in another life. Good to see you here.
Yeah.
No, well, thanks to the colleagues and to you for being here. I mean, I see I know some of you, and probably it's going to, I mean, you should be at my place as well, I guess, some of you for sure. So I will just give you a brief introduction on what the UN Habitat thinks should be, sees the importance of the SDG reporting processes, and especially the link between VLRs and VNRs, which is something that we are exploring very closely with the colleagues of the UCLG and the JTF. For those that don't know, UN Habitat is the agency for human settlements and sustainable urbanization, headquartered in Nairobi, and we are kind of the main UN agency to work with local and regional governments. Within UN Habitat Nairobi, I'm the technical focal point for local and regional governments, and that's why I'm also here, invited by the colleagues of UCLG that have organized these beautiful classes. On the SDGs reporting and in general about the voluntary local reviews that I'm sure you all know, tell me if I'm wrong. UN Habitat act, or at least tries to act as a sort of intermediary body between the cities, local and regional governments, and the UN system. So we kind of filter the reports and support local and regional governments to kind of present their activities and report within the UN system, together with UNDESA, of course, which is the Department of Economic and Social Affairs, that is the custodian of the voluntary national review process. Let's say that for us to be clear, the voluntary national review global movement has been growing steadily in the past years. It had unofficially started in 2016 with what we were not still yet calling voluntary local reviews. I'm thinking about La Paz, for example, and exploded in 2018 with the presentation of New York and some other Asian cities at the high-level political forum of their own voluntary local reviews. Since then, movement has exploded. We are counting today for 50, 55 voluntary local reviews, and the numbers are expected to triplicate, if not quadruplicate, by 2022. So it's something that is gaining much importance, and that has been inspired to fill the gap left by voluntary national reviews. Voluntary national reviews are those reports to which member states report to the HLPF on their progress on the SDGs, right? And the problem was that local and regional governments and their local action was not actually recognized, and local and regional governments were left aside of that process. So voluntary local reviews were born for that specific, to fill that specific gap. And even though the progress is many challenges remain, lack of indicators, lack of disaggregated data, the difficulties to find technical, human resources, financial resources, and I would say, and highlighting these difficulties now that VLRs are taking so much space, the lack of coordination between voluntary local reviews and voluntary national reviews. And why this coordination is important from UN Habitat's perspective. This is important, first of all, because the SDG process and implementation process, as you all know, is a twofold process. So local action and many of the advancement and innovation in implementing the SDGs happen at the local level. But at the same time, local and regional governments alone will not solve the challenges of this world. They need national governments, enabling frameworks, enabling environments to deliver on their mandate. So this connection is critical. VNR, connecting VLRs and VNRs is key to scale good practices, exchange of experiences, and for what for UN Habitat is key is the policy coherence. So the fact that VNRs can really enhance this coherence between the national frameworks and strategies and what happens at the local level in terms of initiatives and strategies. And this connection between voluntary local reviews and voluntary national reviews is at the core of what we are actually now doing with the UCLG. I don't know if maybe some of you had, maybe you didn't, but we just launched during the HLPF 2020 the first set of guidelines for voluntary local reviews, and we are now developing the second set of guidelines that is exactly focused on voluntary national reviews, voluntary local reviews. Challenging, I have to admit, because material is difficult to assess, and we really need to actually lots of interviews, because it's something that is really happening right now. So to report on the existing activities is quite it's interesting, but it's quite challenging. And where are we actually? And I guess that's Cid, if I'm not wrong, you've already discussed about this connection between VLRs and VNRs. I mean, if you probably know already that report, the report that UCLG published and released during the HLPF, for the first time in 2020, you have more than half of the countries that reported to the HLPF acknowledging the consultation with local and regional governments, which is a success, a great progress, but still it's limited, especially when we compare this number to the fact that beyond the VNRs, let's say, connection, local and regional governments account only for the 31% in being acknowledged as part of the national mechanism for implementing the SDGs in the whole countries that have reported from 2016 to the HLPF, which is 31% for some that are more positive. Is a big number because we started from very low. From others, which like me, that really want these numbers to go up, is still very, very low. One thing that I wanted to share with you about the experience, and I'll be very short and on this, about the experience that we are now having in developing the second set of guidelines, is that this connection between VNRs and VLRs is happening. It's very limited, but it's happening, and it's not systematic. There are no mechanisms for systematic coordination. It's very fluid. It happens ad hoc meetings. The case of Finland, for example, is one of the most interesting. Finland has acknowledged the work of Helsinki and some other cities in their VNRs, and they have started working through workshops, gathering the cities that were developing VLRs, but also inviting other cities with representatives from voluntary national reviews focal point, let's say the team. So it was very interesting, but it's still an exchange. It's not a systematic channel of communication where the local level is taken into consideration at the national. And beyond that, what emerged and what I'm happy to say is that the National Association of Local and Regional Governments are acknowledged as being the actor to make this connection happening. This because let's say local action and reporting can be gathered under one single umbrella. And while doing this, local and regional governments have much more political weight vis-a-vis national government, but also at the same time, for the national counterpart, it is much easier to integrate the perspective from the local level into the reporting. Imagine, I mean, I put myself in the shoes of a national representative, and if I have to go to individual and singular cities to ask them about their reporting and to reflect on how to report on their specific achievements, it is going to be a huge work from my side to do so, and I will get tired at some point. So while if I get one single report, if I have one single interlocutor that gathers the information coming from the local level, it's much easier for me to acknowledge that process. So this actually emerged as something very, very important. I'm happy to say that UCLG has already been working in that direction in many countries, and you probably know that already. And let me conclude by saying that voluntary local reviews and this whole reporting system, as you have studied throughout the course, is just let's say an element of the SDG localization process. Is a cornerstone, but it's not the end. And this sometimes happens when we talk about with local and regional governments, especially the newcomers to the SDGs process, so that they get excited about the VLRs because that is something that is mainstream at this point. Is something that can make you also visible at the international level. But we always remember them that the SDG localization process passes through the VLR, but the VLR is not the end of the SDG localization process. It's not about reporting, it's about producing transformative processes at the local level. And as UN Habitat, we are kind of proposing some, like let's say, comprehensive approach to SDG localization through the SDG cities program that really kind of tries to link the implementation chain of the SDGs from data to project and impact, where VLRs as data gathered and as monitoring tool have a central and pivotal role. And happy if you have to reply to a question if you have any. Pass the word back to Cid, and I'm here for your questions if any. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martino, for your introduction and for the work you have been doing in UN Habitat, helping us to better develop voluntary reports. And I think you are all here already. Let's take my list and see if you are here. You're all here. Yeah, we're still missing some colleagues, but we do need to start. Different from the last one because we have only one issue to discuss. We don't have different groups. And you're gonna have only 5 minutes because you are a lot and we want to discuss. So those who were here with us Saturday, they had 7 minutes. Sorry, today it's only 5, but I'm sure you're gonna do a great job because you did great jobs in your work groups. And I would like to thank you for sharing those amazing works with us. We are gonna start The first group is going to be our colleagues Fernando, Silvia, Nadine, MJ, Gabriela. And we're going to make some comments, and then we're going to continue with the second group. Okay, I'm going to repeat. Fernando, Silvia, Nadine, MJ, and Gabriela. Microphones are working. I hope so. You have 5 minutes. I will put my phone to read something when your 5 minutes are over. So make your final comments when you listen to the lovely sound. Okay. Fernando, buenos días desde España.
Buenos días, señores. How are you?
You're fine.
So I should just start?
Please tell us everything about VNRs, local governments, and its relations, solutions, and results in Spain.
Okay, so when talking about VNRs, obviously I'm from Barcelona. So more than Spain, I want to talk about Barcelona. And but I want to talk about it in 3 levels. And I thought the best idea would be to talk about it through 3 different very strategic reports. The first one is the Spain's report on the 2018 Voluntary National Review, which was published on 2018. The second report was the report on localization of the SDGs 2030 of Barcelona, the strategic plan book and action plan of Barcelona. And the third one, the European Handbook of SDGs and the voluntary local reviews, because all of them relate to the localization of SDGs from a Barcelona perspective through 3 different government layers: national in Spain, local Barcelona, and regional European, which in our case, for those who live in Europe, you know, it's a very important supranational government that we relate a lot with on policy building and public policy drafting. And I will go from that order: Spain, Barcelona, Europe, okay? The report on 2018 defined a lot the action plan that the voluntary national reviews had on SDGs as a national government. We will not go over that because I think it's pretty well known and it's on a national perspective. But I think what's important is a chapter that the report mentions on the commitments by autonomous communities and a subchapter on commitments by local governments. Because I think that there it's highlighted the role that subnational governments and subnational municipalities have in terms of territories to achieve the SDGs. And according to my experience, it's the first time that Spain recognized in a chapter with such relevance the important role and commitments the autonomous communities should have. In the case of Catalonia, now I'm leaving Spain to go to our autonomous community in Catalonia. The whole chapter addresses all the different action plans that they're developing, but specifically, I think that it's interesting the commitment of drafting the autonomous community national plan for the SDGs and how they call for an integrated system of targets and indicators to achieve the SDGs within the Catalonia territory. This was being worked, as I was saying, it was published in 2018, but from 2017, it was worked around the Catalan territory, and there was an interesting framework in terms of participatory process that was created, the Catalonia's Advisory Council on Sustainable Development, and a big integration of engaging the 13 different departments that form the Catalan government. They all participated in reviewing the plan on one hand. So it's transversal around departments of the government, but then with this advisory council, it went beyond to stakeholders and external actors that participated in the process. That was one of the main objectives also of the plan from a Catalan perspective and recognized by the Spanish report, this aim of creating a very thorough participatory process that aim to collect contributions not only from public institutions, but from institutional, private sector, non-profit, academia, etc. And that was achieved in a I believe in a quite successful way. So the plan was published, and going beyond that, which is an interesting exercise, the next phase of this implementing plan was to go beyond the Catalan territory, and they're going through a process of engaging non-Catalan stakeholders to contribute to the global transformation of the 2030 agenda. So they are asking for external reviews on a multi-stakeholder platform, you know? And I think that that component recognized on the national report of voluntary national review in Spain is very important. Second report, I think it's a very, I mean, I'm proud as in Finland, I think they were the first European city to publish a VNR. I think Barcelona was one of the next ones that followed. They published the report on localization of SDGs 2030, in which, again, there's a strong emphasis in the alignment of municipal policies and how they design their action programs, starting with a municipal action plan as a core mandate. It was transversal across all the departments, but they created a specific division that would co-lead the process among all the departments. And again, I mean, we could go through the details, but I think that this has to go beyond the municipal responsibility. So there's a municipalist leadership, which implied a legitimate pressure to the government of Catalonia and the central government and the European Commission to work with this unit in the implementation of programs in SDGs in the Barcelona territory. So they become like the legitimate voice to liaise and to coordinate programs within that space. And finally, on this report, I think is also some very interesting approach on how it opened the SDGs to all citizens. So the federal Spanish municipality union and the central government and the different players on the territory also participated in a very proactive way in order to validate it, consolidate it, and define the different programs. No, again, this is interesting because it goes beyond the direct responsibilities of localization for public government and creates a participatory process, which it even engaged a participatory budget in certain districts and a coordinated committee that implemented the programs and validated the efforts within the different layers, Europe, Spain, and Catalonia. And just to give an example of how these programs are being put in place.
Fernando, it's over. I need to final remarks.
Okay. I have time for final remarks, or it's over?
It's over, but I give you 30 seconds.
Okay, 30 seconds just on the European report. We are highlighted Barcelona as a key example on the housing initiative and how they created the housing for all approach, in which aligned with the SDG 11, right to housing has been one of the recognized globally initiatives that Barcelona has led and has proved to be successful within this framework. Thank you. Sorry for the extra time.
Thanks, Fernando. It's great to listen to your example, and thanks for doing it, because it proves that a national government accepts that local and regional governments, they must have a commitment to the agenda, and they point that it makes a difference. And when local and regional governments, they accept that they have this role in the implementation of the agenda, it's even better. And I think that you brought us a very good example where national, local, and regional governments, they have accepted the challenge, and they are truly committed. I would abuse of you a little bit. And if you can share with us the links of those publications, it's going to be lovely to share with our colleagues. I know they probably might be in Spanish, but if you share it, it's going to be okay, since we have some Latins in the sense of Portuguese, Spanish, Italians that can understand Spanish a little bit. It would be lovely if you can do this for us. Thank you very much once again. And I forgot to mention that during Martino's presentation, our colleague Fernando Santamaro started doing what he does the best, which is merchandising. He was promoting the publications. So next time, if you want during your presentations to have someone throwing merchandising during your presentation, call Fernando Santamaro. Is available. Silvia, it's with you. Thanks once again, Fernando.
Okay, thank you. So from my side, I would like to complement Fernando's intervention, which was very interesting and comprehensive, by also referring to the preparation of the 2018 Voluntary National Review. And also mentioning what the mechanisms to articulate the regional and local administrations feedback or work on the SDGs was ensured. So first, I would like to mention that, for example, the different steps that the national government took to draft the voluntary national review were key to facilitate the dialogue and involvement of local and regional governments in the different phases that they executed for the reporting. And it was very important that they created a high-level group for interministerial coordination in order to proceed, I mean, to create the report. And at the beginning, this high-level group consider only the participation of the Spanish regional administrations and local and other local entities, but afterwards they approved their participation in the high-level group as permanent members. So this was a very positive progress on how this high-level group works together with local levels for the reporting. At the same time, the high-level group was complemented by another unit, another group that is called a standing working group that would be a more operative and technical support to the high-level group, where also the regional and local levels of government in Spain are represented and have participated in several forums, meetings, working sessions, in order to contribute with their inputs to the reporting. Also, the drafting of the voluntary national report has the elaboration of an action plan, and during its elaboration, the national government, the high-level group, provided information, regular information to local and regional governments in order to also have their contributions to the action plan. So this is another step where local levels of the administration could contribute actively to the drafting of the report. So then, besides the different steps and mechanisms that I was mentioning, in Spain, I would say there is a good culture and practice of every time that there is a forum, there is a session, there is a working group where the implementation of the Agenda 2030 or the reporting itself is discussed. The different levels of government are represented. So there is this habit of, if the national level is convening the event, usually the regions and the provinces of Spain are also invited to participate, and vice versa. So if, for example, the Federation of Municipalities and Provinces is organizing an event around the Agenda 2030, they usually also invite the national level. So there is this, I think, a very positive practice that ensures articulation, dialogue, and regular feedback and coordination among the levels, the administrations. Besides this constant work among the at different levels. It's also important to mention that in Spain now we have also a High Commission for the Agenda 2030. And again, the Spanish territorial administrations, as well as the civil society organizations, are included in this new, commission. In addition to this, department or commission, we have also the Sustainable Development Council, that again is a forum where different sectors are represented, going from the private sector to civil society, and where also regions and the Federation of Municipalities and Provinces is also participating. So to conclude, just to mention that we can conclude that for the reporting or the drafting of the voluntary national report, there has been a good articulation among all levels of government, and this is something that keeps being the practice in terms of regular work and assessment of how Spain and the different regions are progressing with the implementation of the Agenda 2030. For example, last week there was the launch of a publication on the progress of a report focused on the progress of the Agenda 2030 in 100 cities. And this is another example how this bottom-up approach can be taken into account by the national level when reporting on the implementation of the agenda. So it's so from both sides, there is, I think, a good level of reporting and good level of articulation among the different administrations.
Thank you, Silvia. If you can share with us this last report you told us, we're curious as well. I think that if all these efforts of integration and respect to the regions and to the local government, do you think that Spain will be in the same position in terms of the agenda as it is today? What would be different?
If no,
If
no, can you repeat your question? I'm not sure I understood.
think that if Spain, a national government, doesn't make those efforts to respect and to have representation, and do you think that Spain would be in the same position as it is today in terms of the Agenda 2030?
No, I mean, I think it's very interesting that there is like kind of a consensus, national consensus, in the sense that since I mean, from the national government, there is a very high commitment in fostering, I mean, in promoting the implementation of the Agenda 2030 by establishing different committees, groups, commissions, and also at the local level, there is also a high interest in progressing on implementing the Agenda 2030 and in disseminating their efforts at the local level and disseminating the importance of the agenda in the population. I mean, at the, yeah. I mean, with citizens. So I think there is a good articulation also in terms of commitment, interest, and efforts being put in place by every level of government in Spain. Of course, the smallest, I mean, the municipalities have more difficulties to achieve these goals because some of them have fewer capacities to push for this, for the reportings, for the tools and the different steps that the agenda requires, but through the local governments, associations, they can also have a very, I mean, support to
Make it happen.
To be capacitated, to be supported.
Yeah, you know, it's great. That will be very interesting, Fernando, to have just like a small publication on Spain's work of integrating local and regional government. That will be, it's a study case that it would be interesting to have some kind of small paper or something like that to share with people. Let's think about it. Thanks, Silvia.
Thank you.
And where are you, Nadine?
I'm here.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Tired. It's almost Christmas time, but we will survive.
Good.
Please tell us a little bit what's going on in Palestine.
Thank you, Cid. It's good to see you all again. Today, I can say it would be the easiest presentation for me because you already put 3 questions and the answer of each is no. So,
let's understand this.
Yes.
Just after what we heard from Spain, let's understand what's no.
Okay, let me start with a quick summary. Local governance in Palestine consists of local authorities, Ministry of Local Government, Municipal Development and Lending Fund, and the Association of Palestinian Local Authorities, APLA. My intervention will reflect the situation for local authorities and APLA, as I am the communication coordinator for APLA. So local governments in Palestine wasn't invited to contribute in the voluntary national review when the central government submitted its report in 2080, which was the only report and the only participation for Palestine in the VNR. Actually, the SDGs national team is led by the Prime Minister Office, and it includes all relevant ministries and other local institutions. But until now, neither APLA nor any local authority was part of this team. So, but this year it's agreed new arrangements shall improve the coordination between the central and local governments. Our national government put an institutional mechanisms to ensure the coordination and the follow-up for implementing the SDGs. Local government units and APLA was invited or associated to such a mechanism through ad hoc consultations in a few or punctual meetings, but not as a permanent member. As the only national organization which holds and represents all local governments in Palestine, APLA considers its contribution in the national reporting processes inadequate. This year, the policy coordinator for APLA was added to the SDG 11 national team, which is led by the Ministry of Local Government. In my opinion, this coordination mechanism hadn't any impact on the dialogue or the relation between the central government or between the different levels of governments. The national policy agenda is fully aligned with the SDGs, and it mentions clearly the need to support local governments in implementing the SDGs at local level. But neither APLA nor any local authority was consulted by the central government in the design, implementation, or monitoring these national strategies. So in fact, supporting local governments should take more serious and realistic approach. For example, allocating financial transfers from central to local governments is much needed to correct the imbalances between the tasks assigned to local authorities and its limited resources. The question here can be, how could central government support local governments without promoting its contribution in these national strategies? About local governments and its association participation in the drafting process for VNR, local government wasn't part of the drafting processes until now, but even if Palestine will not participate in the voluntary national review this year, APLA has already prepared an annual progress report about the implementation of the SDGs at local level. Also, APLA has invited to contribute to other reports about the implementation of the SDGs. Its contribution was by presenting the national and how the national and regional governments, what national and regional governments are doing to implement the SDGs by participating in national and regional workshops to debate the report, and by answering surveys or questionnaires submitted to other international institutions such as UCLG. As mentioned in the Palestinian National Voluntary Review, one of the key objectives of this review was to present the localization of the SDGs into the national strategies, sectorial and cross-sectorial national strategies. Local governments and its associations in Palestine weren't consulted and were not included in the information gathering processes. So there is no local achievements reflected in the report. The Palestinian government perception about localization was limited to the achievements of ministries and its directorates in the governorates. And this is all from my side.
Thank you very much, Nadine. I think it's just after what we saw from Spain and then listen to you, it's quite amazing because your perspective brings exactly what I have asked to Silvia. Where would be Spain if they didn't do any effort? And then you come up with the example of Palestine, where you have a very centralized decision in the process. They recognize the role of local authorities, but they don't invite local authorities as effective holder. They invite when they want, so it's not a true participation. So if you don't feel part of it, you don't give the value. So, but on the other hand, you brought us what APLA has been doing by itself, which is very important. But probably APLA would be doing 2 times more if they were recognized and respected by national government as a stakeholder. So we are just doing this. It was all combined between us. We know that this is going to happen. Spain, Palestine, just for my to know, we are doing this. It's everything. It's in the script, but it's quite interesting for us to realize that when you are not truly invited to be part of something, and it happens a lot in terms of governance, things doesn't happen. It doesn't have the same value. It doesn't have the same perspective. And first of all, I would like to congratulate APLA for the great job and work you have been doing, because it's quite difficult to do something when you don't have support from national level. And I hope they open. We still have 10 years, so I hope there is still time for national government to bring local and regional authorities as stakeholders. And do you want to add something?
We already fight to be included in these processes as APLA for local authorities too.
And you have used the right word. It's a fight. We have to fight.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're going to have your place as a stakeholder recognized in the future.
Yes.
Thanks for sharing with us.
Thank you,
MJ, are you awake?
Yes, I am still here and awake.
What time is it now, MJ?
Now here is 10:50 p.m.
Okay, the floor is
Yeah,
easy.
it's the early night for me.
Thanks for being with us. The floor is yours. Tell us a little bit how is the work in terms of the VNRs in this part of the world?
Okay, thank you very much for giving me the chance to share my information on our VNL and then VL and then activities by the civil society networks for sustainable development goal. Till yesterday, I was really hopeful to prepare this presentation. However, now I'm a little bit skeptical because I realize the real situations we are facing now to solve many problems and then many the big mountains we need to come over. So nowadays the few during few days as I am doing the fiscal business budget issue for the next year. As you know, in Korea, the fiscal year finishes at the end of the year. So now it's really important for the next year's budget setting. So I have the many time to talk with my civil city councils to build some new business for the sustainable development businesses. However, that is not easy for me to make them understand why we are focusing on this and do some new business for that. These feeling, I'm a little depressed today because of this, the hard time for me. But simply, I'd like to introduce our situations for the review report. In case of the South Korea, submitted its biennial in 2016, the first year of the summit. And in line with the international community's rapid pace, it was really good actions that the voluntary report was first submitted. For this, 6 main steps as national government has faced have been taken to produce. The first step is reviewing national social, economic, and environmental conditions against the SDG. And second step is analyzing goals with the special attentions to trade-off and synergies between goals and targets. And then third step, mapping and screening of governments and non-government institutional to address the SDGs. Fourth step, selecting relevant national indicators to the SDGs. The fifth step, collecting relevant data from both government and a non-governmental organization. And then last step is identifying the organizations and actors with the potentials to contribute to achieving the SDG in specific 3 pillars of sustainability, economy, society, and environment. Very interestingly, in review, the national government mentioned Korean government's commitment to the sustainable development. This development started with the Earth Summit, in 1992. And it is the continuation of these consistent development efforts. So they mentions many actions the Korean government's already done before we set the Sustainable Development Goal in 2015. And most important thing is the Korean government set the civil society's the platform for implementing of the Local Agenda 21. Local Agenda 21 is the same meaning of the SDG goals, targets, actually. So almost 200 local governments set their own civil society as a body to implement the sustainable development business. So yeah, that is really the important moments the Korean government met in 2004. So now that bodies still existed for the Sustainable Development Goal, but their actions is not active actually, because in Korea, the politician is really important group. Sometimes politicians doesn't any help for the global any trends actually. So the policy should continue even if the administration change it. However, that is quite difficult for us. So nowadays, the current Korean government is now focusing on the the commitment with to sustainable development goal. So the Ministry of the Foreign Affairs and an environmental Ministry of the Environment is a key ministry for the implement of this sustainable development goal. So they are task force for the implement on this point. And basic information, Korea, the local autonomy system has been established since the 1990s. So each local government has their own power, very strong power. So every single mayors can set their own policy and then use their own budget for their own business. So we need to force the local governments do their own the strategic the political business for the attaining the sustainable development goal. So yeah, this is really interesting situation we are now facing. However, the local government is very important pivotal body to implement the sustainable development goal. So that is not quite bad actually. Each mayors and then all citizens can gather and then and bring their brilliant ideas to their own territory for their better future. So I'm in the middle. Actually, I'm practitioner and a policymaker, and also I'm researcher and then teacher. So I'm working at the local government. So I need to meet many people, many stakeholders who are engaged in the many their own single area. So try to I have some good any good connections with them. So as mentioned, as the steps of the habitats in the early of this morning, this meeting. Sorry.
Closing remarks.
Okay, so in conclusions, in my aspect, the implementation for sustainable development is really good point. However, to implement is really hard still for the local governments. So we need to the programs, the citizens' awareness improved, and then the city councils can change their minds. So we need to deeply discuss about from the planning to the implementation strategies for the cities.
Thank you, MJ. Answer the question I was going to do.
Yes.
How do you think that would be possible to mobilize and to make all those actors to be part of it? Because you mentioned in the beginning of our presentation that people, they don't know why to join or to be part of the Agenda 2030. So do you think that programs and its advocacy, what would be the way to make them aware? What do you think it would make them more than part of it? We know we have been talking about this in the last 2 presentations, how to make people be part of it, good and bad examples. But what do you think would be a way to make people understand the importance of the agenda?
Yes, that is really important and difficult points. So I met many people who understand these points well. However, we still many people, many citizens, and many officials, and then even city councils doesn't understand why this point is still important for our real life. So few people's big efforts is necessary. So few people know well about this point, should speak a lot and then let them know with the result actually. So from the small project, we try to implement one single project attached to the concept of the sustainable development goal, and then we can show them this is what we are saying. Actually, people can easily understand and easily believe what they are seeing. So for that, we are trying to start a small business from the next year to make the platform to show them the many people, the teachers or any the politicians or any the person who work in the international industry, any experts on the international relations can speak to them and then try to do co-project with them, and then they can see the step-by-steps process, and then they can finally change their minds. So it takes quite a long time. So now we are talking about the review, and then we are talking about achieving the goal. However, between that two big points, we have many steps as we need to come. We need to climb up to the top of the our goal. So I mean officials, the practitioners and the single workers in the real local governments need to take kind of the single and specific and clear action plans for achieving the goal. So
yeah, and even though we still have almost 10 years to do that, time flies, and in the blink of an eye, we're gonna be looking at each other and say, "Oh, next year it's 2030." And what about? Yeah.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Financial issues and support issues is really important. Without that, we cannot do anything. So we need some supporters to do that.
Yeah, of course. Thank you very much to be here with us. Thanks, Fernando. Thanks, Silvia. And thanks, Nadine. Martino, do you want to make any comments on this group?
No, I think that the comment that makes me that strikes me the most is the diversity of the situation, right? It is everything, every country, every local context has its own challenges, its own pros and cons, and which makes this effort of implementing the SDGs even much more complicated, because we really need people like you that are on the territory, that are on the spot, that know the dynamics to make sure that this happens. Because simply there is not one single bulletproof or silver like bullet for implementing the SDGs, but we really need differentiated and targeted approaches that they can really like go into the specificities of the local realities. So, well, thanks to all for the presentation and for actually the work that you are actually doing. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Let's go for our second round of presentations, where we're gonna have Minar, Gabriela, Rosemary, Edgar, and Katie. So are you all there? Let me check if they didn't abandon us.
Yes, still there.
Yes, I'm here.
So good to have you all here. So let's start, Gabriela. Please tell us the perspectives in Lithuanian.
Yes, thank you, Cid. Good afternoon to everyone. Okay, so I would like to start with the placing the fact that the first and the only voluntary national review prepared by Lithuania was in 2018. The second one was supposed to be this year, but I think that due to COVID situation and the national elections in Lithuania, the situation changed and it was postponed to 2021, so next year. So we still have only that one review prepared and submitted to United Nations. In order to prepare that review, the Ministry of Environment, which is an institution responsible for sustainable development policy in general, also including 2030 agenda, and the institution responsible for preparation of the review and presentation of that review at the high-level political forum at the United Nations, created a multi-stakeholder national working group on coordination of the implementation of the 2030 agenda for sustainable development. So this national working group is responsible also for preparation of those reviews. The mentioned group includes representatives from all the ministries, also representatives from National Statistical Office, which is responsible for indicators of measuring sustainable development goals, the progress of sustainable development goals. Also representatives of a platform of NGOs, and I'm also included in that working group as a representative of local governments, as I work for the Association of Local Authorities in Lithuania. And the whole process was quite funny, because each institution got an exact number of pages for preparing their part. So basically, the Ministry of Environment just accumulated the whole information, put everything together, and that's how we got the final review. So we, as local governments, we got 1 page in that final report. So the total scope of the report was 70 pages, and the local authorities got 1 page to prepare their contribution to the implementation of sustainable development goals. But of course, that was first time. So this year we were expecting a better situation, but you know, the better situation was postponed to the next year. So of course, the information that we prepared was not that detailed. It was more or less general information about the fields in which the local authorities make their contributions, and the main weakness, actually, to my mind, as I see that, is that the information prepared by ministries and information coming out from local authorities is in some kind overlapping, because in Lithuania we have only 1 tier local government level. So municipalities, they are responsible for direct implementation of the national policies. So whatever comes out of the ministries, that's municipalities which are responsible for the implementation. And ministry at the end of the year gathers the information, the results on how municipalities managed to implement those policies, and while preparing that report, they actually presented that those results as their job results. Nonetheless, that the actual work was done by local level, not national. Of course, I understand that the policy, the whole regulation and everything comes out of the national level, but the implementation and the actual results are at local level. So yeah, so this overlapping I see as one of the main weaknesses of the report. And that first time, the report was focusing on 6 priority areas that that Lithuania as a country has defined. That's mainly social and health issues, also related to sustainable development goals, but some of the goals were like left in a second place, and some priorities were defined, and the whole report was mostly focusing on those priorities. Well, I think that's all what I wanted to say.
Thanks a lot, Gabriela. You mentioned something in the beginning of your speech that made me think something. That the VNR part doesn't happen because of the elections and because of the COVID pandemic. During the COVID pandemic and during the elections campaign, did someone mention the agenda to spur of the discussions, the agenda 2030, or for COVID, or for the elections?
Well, to be honest, the communication campaign of the whole 2030 agenda and the sustainable development goals was really not much visible during this time, because I don't know, everybody was just rushing around other things, because when you have national elections in the country, then all those election campaigns and everything just take over other things. I don't know, that's how I see it. I don't know if that's true. Maybe there were some changes in the ministry, but usually this multi-stakeholder group, which I mentioned at the beginning, had live meetings from time to time, gathering to discuss the progress and the relevant issues. But during this year, to be honest, we didn't have any single meeting.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's and unfortunately, because I think it was a great opportunity to bring up some of the issues of the agenda, because it's sort of related to the pandemic and also to the elections, because it can be something to guide the debate and the discussions regarding new programs, new actions. And you also brought something very interesting, that and it happens a lot, that national government, they take as their results what has been done by local and regional authorities. Mm-hmm. It's common, even if the money it's from them, or the policies were wrote by them, then the real implementation at local level, most of the time it's not done by them. So, but thanks for sharing with us. It was very good to learn a little bit more about Lithuania. Nar, are you there?
Thank you.
Yes, I'm here. How are you?
I'm fine. Thanks to coming back again. Manar was with not only Manar and Jay was they were with us on Saturday, just to listen.
Yeah.
Colleagues, and it was great. And I abused a little bit of Manar, because we had Rami from Lebanon, and I asked her a few questions. But Manar, the floor is yours, because you promised me a few things on Saturday, so let's listen to you.
Okay, I will continue what Rami has started the next the previous session. So I will present what Lebanon had done to represent his or its VNR. Then I will give you the feedback about the local region government and our work towards the report for UCLG. So Lebanon has presented its first VNR to the High Political Forum. Sorry, you still there? You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So I was telling you that Lebanon was presenting its first VNR to the High Political Forum in 2018. A national committee was established in June 2017, chaired by the Prime Minister to guide the work for rollout of the SDGs in Lebanon. It included more than 50 states, officials at DG level, civil societies, and representatives of private sectors to lead and coordinate national efforts, as well as to develop a national database for the SDGs indicators with the support of the UN country team. So 3 workshops held towards the end of 2017 to start developing the VNR. The first one targeted the national committees to raise awareness of the SDGs. The second one targeted the private sector and involved just 20 business representatives from different sectors across Lebanon. The third one targeted the CSOs, and there were 50 CSOs that to discuss how the SDGs were integrated. Then, in March 2018, the National Committee held its first meeting, where 4 subcommittees have been established for or along with the 4 of the 5 pillars of the 2030 SDGs. So a task force for statistics was also formed to collect SDG related data. And so the report was prepared by collecting information from primary resources, extensive consultation with key ministers, parliament, and other state entities. A short questionnaire was sent to all relevant public sector administrations. 23 individual stakeholder interviews were held, including the academia, and the part of the workshops was from this primary sources. Then we have the secondary information sources, official documents and data, consisted of a desk review of ministry reports, sectoral strategies, plans, and legislation. So the goals were of SDGs presented were goal number 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, and 16. It was written in time where the country was facing the Syrian crisis. So in this way of work, as I mentioned, you see it was at the national level almost. So here we have some comments about the strategy adopted by the government. The National Committee for SDGs in Lebanon played a role in collecting information from ministries and the academia or administration represented in the committee. Okay, so it was limited to addressing each side of sustainable development in light of the representative ministries' strategies and the plans. So the report adopted a sectoral approach and a fragmented methodology, and there was like a tick box exercise. Then we can say that the National Committee for SDGs in Lebanon has played a limited role up to now. it stands just, as I said, at the level of the representative ministries' strategies and the plans. And also there were no specific criteria for selection of the representing partners in the National Committee. It was limited also to a quantitative approach to SDGs without addressing the impact of numerous challenging other challenges in the country. There is a lack of up-to-date availability. So I think the situation here, it's because you can say yes, that in Lebanon we have also almost 1,088 municipality, and we have also about 56 or maybe 60 union of municipalities. For that reason, I think the work was following this fragmented strategy or approach. For the work of local regional government, I think it's taken by individual essays or work. Then from our side, we are presenting for UCLG Gold every year. We are very keen to present our report that we are collecting information from our work and at local level, because I think also you can mention that in Lebanon there is, I can call it the country of crisis, because after that Syrian crisis, the country had a lot of crisis, and we are now facing a lot of challenging crises. So for this reason, I think the work on the report did not take its right way to be consistent, to be sustained for the years after. I think, as I said, because of the political situation, critical political situation in the country. So from our side, as a local regional government, I mentioned it before in my first representation, and it was like we are working to raise awareness about SDGs through our website and between the local residents. And we are also working on the administrative staff to apply all our action in line with the SDGs. So the success story, if you want, of our work, it can be in a brief mentioned with after COVID-19, we had established like a cell crisis. This cell crisis divided into 15 committees, and each committee has its own role and its own goal, like medical or food assist or maybe sanitizing. For every task the region need in this critical situation. But after the situation of COVID, still we are facing the crisis. But I think during this crisis, those youth that are involved in these committees, they are a part of our daily work in the municipality or in the union. They are here for every a meeting we have with a stakeholder, or if you want, with NGOs, if they have if they have projects, so they can follow up. And this is the aim of the main challenge in the SDGs to apply. Okay, that's it.
Thank you very much, Manar. It's always a pleasure to listen to you. I will make you a question because that's connected to your reality. Do you think that the Association of Municipalities, they are recognized as an important stakeholder in the process of the implementation of the agenda? Because most of the time we talk about government, and now we are, and then we have associations. And do you think they are seen as an important stakeholder in the implementation of the agenda?
Yes, of course, but as I said, there is a lot of challenges in every municipality. It's not a sustained work. Every municipality has its own challenge or its own problem. So it's not maintained on the national level. It's not. In those days, to be honest, the SDGs are not implementing in Lebanon just through the government because the challenges or the crisis that you are facing. So to implement, to be a stakeholder from the municipal part, I think it depends on the situation of each municipality. The level of awareness, the level of how much they are included in this workshop. Because I said the union is pledged because the president is already is a vice president in UCLG. So he's from 2015 trying to apply the SDGs in our community. We are still in the beginning. Still, there is a lot of challenges. So we are working with youth. You know, we are bringing those capacities to follow an inclusive governance, decentralized also governance, to work to not waste the time. We have to face. We believe that those challenges must be fighting through SDGs.
And we are running against time, always. Thank you very much once again, Manar, for being here with us. Rosemary, where are you? How is Kenya? Your microphone is off.
Hi, Cid.
Hi, Ro, how are you?
I'm fine. Hi from Nairobi.
Yeah, lovely place.
Yeah.
Please tell us a little bit how things happen and are happening in Kenya and in Nairobi.
Thank you, Cid. I think I'll start with our context in Kenya. We have a diverse system of government. The Constitution recognizes two levels of government, the national government and the county government. We have 47 county governments. So essentially, we are a devolved system. With respect to SDGs, let me start by saying that we have an interagency technical committee that brings together the national government, the county government, the CSOs, the private sector, academia, and UN agencies to basically monitor implementation of SDGs in the country. So that's the first thing, that's the context, first of all, that we have an interagency technical committee that brings together various stakeholders for purposes of, SDGs. When it comes to the VNRs, Kenya has done two VNRs. The first one was done in 2017. The other one was done in 2020. The first one of 2017 was presented physically. Unfortunately, there was not much involvement with the county governments for the 2017 one. So that one we were not very much involved. I'd like to say that I work for the Council of Governors. The Council of Governors is the body that brings together the 47 county governments. So we didn't really participate in that. However, the second VNR was presented virtually this year in June 2020. I'll try and share the report. And this year, there was involvement of the county governments in the development of the VNR that was presented at the HLPF virtually. At the county level, very quickly, we have 5 county governments that have developed voluntary local reviews. They're the first counties to do it. They did it in 2019. And fortunately, because the local reviews were done last year, when we did the national report in 2020, the report picked some of the issues that were in the local reports. So the local reports informed the national report that was presented in 2020. So essentially, the county voluntary local reviews were infused into the VNR of 2020. So the county governments were actually involved, of course, through the interagency committee, through the Council of Governors. The Council of Governors has a unit, has an SDGs unit to coordinate the county governments in implementation of SDGs. All counties have SDG champions. All counties have, basically SDGs have been infused in the planning directorates of all county governments. So at the county level, SDGs have been able to be mainstreamed into the planning cycle of the county governments. So basically, for us, what we're looking at as the Council of Governors is to upscale the local reviews from the 5 counties to the other 42 counties that have not done it, so that as we move forward, probably in the next year, we should be able to have more counties have a voice and contribute to the VNR through their own local reports. So I think for SDGs implementation, that's very key. Also, one thing I'd like to note is that Kenya has a blueprint, has a development blueprint called the Vision 2030. So the Vision 2030 picked certain indicators for Kenya. So what has done is the Vision 2030 has been infused also in the county plans. Counties develop plans that are called county integrated development plans, and they derive their priorities from Vision 2030. And Vision 2030 has adopted certain indicators from the SDGs that Kenya is prioritizing. So basically, the flow is the Vision 2030, which has the indicators of SDGs, the county integrated development plans, which borrow from the Vision 2030. And then those ones even go further, they decentralize even further into the annual development plans and into the sector plans and into budgets, etc. So at the end of the day, we also have performance management frameworks that have indicators of SDGs. So at the county level, it's as they do their planning, as they do their implementation, as they do their reporting, reporting on SDGs has been mainstreamed. So reporting on SDGs becomes normalized and institutionalized at the county level. I can't say it's perfect. Again, we still have counties that have not, done the VLRs. And so I think, as a Council of Governors, that's our priority, to ensure that all counties contribute to the national report. Thank you, Cid. Back to you.
No, thank you, Rosemary. I'll make your question, but I need Martino to stop listening. Do you think that having all those UN agencies in Nairobi, it helps or it makes lives harder in order of the Agenda 2030?
That's a good question, Cid. I think it has. I think it has helped. Let me say why. First of all, we've had UN agencies that have prioritized SDGs, and they have really assisted local governments to mainstream SDGs. Let me give an example. The UNDP did a handbook for local governments on SDGs and how to mainstream SDGs. And they did a very good guide and a very good handbook that we still use today when we are sensitizing county government officials on SDGs. The second thing about the UN agencies is that they're able to keep you in check, because they're able to tell you as a country, as local governments, you're going off track. You are not keeping to you've signed on to these goals and you're not keeping to them. And I've found that a lot. You'll find certain UN agencies, UN Habitat, UNDP, they will insist. Even right now, we are doing recovery strategies for COVID. Local governments are going to launch on Monday the county social economic recovery and reengineering strategy because of COVID. And we had a meeting with UNDP, and UNDP said, we hope that you have infused SDGs in these recovery strategies. And we had to go back and sit and start asking ourselves, oh my God, do we have SDGs in this recovery strategy? So, and they kept telling us, we hope that you're alive to the global discussions of SDGs, and we hope the recovery strategies are going to capture the SDGs so that as you recover, you do not lose track of the fact that you committed to certain indicators and you committed to certain goals. So I find that there are UN agencies that are very, very key, and they're always keeping us in check in terms of SDGs implementation.
Oh, and it's very good to listen that even though if you know that you're being checked, and you see this as a positive thing.
Yeah.
A lot of governments would feel this as pressure.
Yeah.
Being pushed, and it's great to see that you see that as an incentive to keep on track and do a better job. That's why I thought it was interesting to ask you that, because I'm sure that some other governments will see that on a different way, but it's good to listen that you are pleased to have this help and this pressure. Thank you very much once again, Rosemary, for being here with us.
Thank you, Cid. Thank you, team.
And I will pass the floor to I'll let the ladies first. It's early morning to Edgar, so he's awakened. And Katie, are you there? Kate? I think we missed Kate. So I'll pass the floor to Tenema. Are you there?
Hi, Sid. Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Tenema. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm okay. And you?
Your sound is very, very low. Can you come closer to the microphone to make it better?
Okay. So are you hearing me now?
Now I can hear you. Thanks for being here with us today. You'll have 5 minutes to share.
Okay. Hi, team. Greetings from Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone was among the 22 countries reviewed at the first high-level political forum in July 2016 in New York. And also there was also, are you getting me? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thanks. And also, there was also a voluntary national review report, which was held in 2019 by Sierra Leone as well. I'm not going to talk in sequential order. I'm just going to mix up the information that I have. In Sierra Leone, of course, we are implementing the SDGs. the national medium-term development plan, which is our national plan, is consistent with international framework and provides a strong policy directions in the implementation of the development progress in our country. And this forms the basis for international budgetary support that focuses on human capital development and job creation for all public services delivery centers, including local councils. The national government, through the Ministry of Planning and Economic Development, has engaged in a popularization of the medium-term development plan, which with a view to decentralize ownership so that effective implementation, monitoring, and evaluation will be enhanced. And also it is important to know that our development plan contains the SDGs. We are in the process of preparing the monitoring and evaluation framework for operationalizing the medium-term National Development Plan 2019 to 2023. Also, as a country, we have followed a clear and strategic directions in the implementation of the SDGs through the national plan. We have prioritized education, which is goal 4, and access to justice, goal 16, in the medium-term national development plan, and hence in the 2019 voluntary national review reporting. We should also note that the 2 goals are reviewed as most crucial towards permanently staying out of fragility, which recognizes the immense significance of all other SDGs in the process. Under Goal 4, education, we have commenced the implementation of a free quality school education program, as an education population is the cornerstone for delivery. It's a cornerstone for delivering sustainable development. Furthermore, Goal 16, justice, is crucial to the country, demonstrated by the fact that Sierra Leone is a co-chair of the Global Task Force on Justice and chair of the 7G+ group of countries, leading the global agenda to address the problems faced by countries in fragility of fragile and conflict-related contexts. Our 2019 VNR presents to the UN progress made on SDGs 4 and 16, as well as 8, 10, 13, and 17 amongst leading goals to be reviewed at this year's high-level political forum. As a local council, of course, we have 22 local councils in Sierra Leone, which I am coming from the Freetown City Council, which is the capital of Sierra Leone. For us as a council, we looked at human development, diversified employment opportunities, and an appropriately skilled population. We thought it fit that it is essential for our individual and collective prosperity. In this cluster, we have 4 priority sectors: education, skill development, job creation, and support for people with disabilities. We as a country also our country's local and regional government inclusion in the national mechanisms for the implementation of the 2030 agenda is fully recognized. It's fully recognized as there is a cooperation of the Sustainable Development Goals in the national framework. That is, all SDGs were integrated into local council plans, facilitated by the Department of Local Government Finance in the Ministry of Finance. To strengthen this integration, MOPED has drafted a set of guidelines for national development plan, which it has been also localized so that we have ownership of it.
Closing remarks.
National technical session was held on the VNR preparation process in Freetown, bringing together central and local government MDAs and district councils, which includes discussion of reporting methodology and approach for the 2019 VNR, debating the adaptability of the guidelines provided by the United Nations.
Closing remarks, Tanima.
Okay. Hello?
Did you hear?
Sorry, what did you say? Come again.
You have to close because your time is over.
Okay.
Make your final comments.
So, my final comment. Sierra Leone have adopted the SDGs, and we are working immensely together with that of the national government and the local government in order to localize the SDGs in Sierra Leone. And also the national medium-term national development plan, which is our development plan of Sierra Leone, contains huge lots of SDGs. And then they have also tried to localize this plan so that it will be implemented by local councils. So I think that is what we have done so far as a country. And we are still working towards the SDGs.
Thank you very much, Tanima. We're just running out of time, and I will already pass the floor to Kate. She has lost connection, but she's back. Are you there, Kate?
I am, thanks, Sid. Great. Hi, everyone. Thanks for this opportunity. My name's Kate. I'm from Johannesburg in South Africa. I'm going to talk a little bit about South Africa and LRG's participation in the VNR just generally. Then I'm going to focus on implementation and the successes we've had, as well as reporting. And I'm also going to highlight a few of the remaining challenges that we've seen. So South Africa was quite instrumental in being involved in the negotiations of the SDG as the rotating chair. And South Africa also prepared a VNR report in 2019. And some of our local governments, such as the city of Cape Town and eThekwini, have also contributed a lot to SDG monitoring, as well as sort of local reviews and guidelines for reporting. But if we look particularly at how the LRGs in South Africa contribute to the national mechanism for implementation, there it's very clear that local and regional governments are acknowledged by national governments as being really key and important implementers. This is where sort of in South Africa, we have this expression about the rubber hitting the road. It's where things actually come together and are implemented. But a small critique is that this does, to some extent, remain a sort of top-down process that comes from national and then is translated and applied by local governments, as opposed to it being a bottom-up process. So like some of my colleagues have already mentioned, in South Africa, we have a national development plan, which is the sort of long-term strategy for the country that also ends in 2030. And the SDGs and the NDP are very closely aligned. So from a national perspective, we've translated the strategy of the SDGs down into South Africa. And then that NDP is translated once again by all the provinces, which is the next sphere of government, and then local municipalities, which are sort of cities and municipalities or small towns, also take their lead from the NDP that is very closely aligned to the SDGs. So from an implementation perspective, all sort of local municipalities are working towards the targets of the SDGs. And that is well acknowledged. And similar to some of the colleagues in sort of Spain, there's also been a coordination system set up for the country. This came about particularly with the Millennium Development Goals. It was acknowledged that having different spheres of government in South Africa working together hadn't been very good, and this needed better improvement. And so the coordination system, and I'm trying to think exactly what it's called, but the coordination sort of team has been established. So that is a pro. However, there are still quite active municipalities who are working towards achieving the SDGs. So for example, my municipality, Johannesburg, we ensure that the SDG sort of strategy is translated into our own long-term city strategy. And as I've mentioned, our IDPs, our integrated development plans that each municipality needs to have, these relate to the SDGs, but we don't have a direct connection to that coordinating council. So there's a bit of a break, is all I'm trying to say, between implementation and actual reporting and feedback. That's something we need to work on more in our context in South Africa. And this is acknowledged by national governments as well. It was something that they mentioned in the VNR in 2019, that there needs to be greater awareness of the SDGs at local government level. So even though the implementation is working towards the SDGs, sometimes that broader picture is almost lost at a very small local rural levels. But like other colleagues have mentioned, National has tried quite hard to institute the idea of it being an interactive, an evidence-based system and an inclusive system. So there's been lots of efforts to do that, such as this coordinating committee, as well as reaching out to get civil society's views in the VNR reporting. But sometimes this has just missed the boat. There haven't been enough resources that have been implemented for that to be done very effectively. So from there, I'm just going to move more into the reporting, which I've already started to touch on. And I want to highlight two major aspects here, which is the contribution of local authorities that I've also mentioned before, and then highlight the data challenges, which is maybe quite a unique thing that we experience in Africa quite a lot, maybe particularly in sort of the South. And I'll look at some of the achievements from local governments. So according to the Gold 5 report, South Africa, the local and regional governments in South Africa have the highest level of participation in that time frame from 2016 to 2019. And as I touched on, LRGs have contributed to, the City of Cape Town contributed to the 2020 guidelines for voluntary local reviews, a comparative analysis of existing VNRs, which is the UCLG and UN Habitat documents. The City of eThekwini has assisted with training modules on SDG awareness, as well as SDG monitoring and reporting. And we've also hosted a number of key forums, international forums in South Africa and in cities. So Durban last year was the site of the World Congress for UCLG, obviously a very strong focus on the SDGs. And Johannesburg, I think in 2016, was the host of a similar sort of forum. And as I touched on before, so Joburg has tried to volunteer to supply data to the national VNR, but we haven't seen a very strong appetite from national for that sort of data. And this also speaks to the data challenge that's mentioned in the Gold 5 report, that there's a dearth of data in Africa. And while South Africa does have quite good data, there's also a tension between the data. So the principal source of reporting for our national report comes from an organization called Statistics South Africa, which is obviously a national body who does surveys across the country. And so lots of statistical information comes from that department. Whereas, and another So lots of it comes from this national organization, the data that's reported for the SDGs. And in our national reports, the SDGs are always framed at least a national, domestic, or a global level, as opposed to at a local government level. So the data we produce internally is often very strongly linked to implementing and furthering an SDG strategic agenda. However, the performance is in a sort of narrow, things that the city can monitor, things that happen within Joburg. So if we're looking at improved access to sanitation, it's how many new sort of toilets have been produced within the city of Johannesburg. And the country would rather use Stats SA data that takes the whole country into account. And similarly, Similarly, when we are looking at data, we also draw from Stats SA and bring it down and disaggregate it. So there's that tension there. Reflections on how our local and regional governments have been recognized in the voluntary review is particularly about meeting SDG 9, industry innovation and infrastructure, innovations in public transport. Many cities have been noted, so the Gautrain and Gauteng, buses in Johannesburg, buses in Cape Town. So just in closing, I'd like to say that there is definitely a strong relationship between local and regional governments in implementing the SDGs, but in reporting, there has been a bit of a gap in translating that bottom-up information back into the national reports. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kate. I think I have a question that it fits not only for you, but also for all the African participants. Africa itself has a very strong association in several cases. I'm an architect, and I know that the African Association of Art, it's very strong. They do a lot of investigation and things like that. Do you see an African effort in terms of the Agenda 2030 as the association of the countries? And I would like to finish this African group before going to Latin America to see, to talk a little bit, because we are always talking about association of cities. And it comes to me the idea of, is there an association of countries that are fighting together to achieve the goals? Does any of you know something about that in terms of Africa? Please.
Sure. So I would say like UCLG Africa is sort of represents what you're talking about now. So an association of countries coming together to try and achieve it, to try and further the SDG goals. I think within Africa, like you're saying, the African Union, there is also a very strong sort of network. And sometimes there are slight divisions between sort of historically colonized sort of Francophone Africa and English Africa. So there is a slight, like a hurdle that we have to overcome in being a very united Africa, I think. But building on Agenda 2063, which is also the African Union agenda, I think there is definitely so much association going on.
Thanks. Does anyone want to make any comments? Our African friends, Rosemary.
Yeah, I think I'll just reiterate, Kate has put it well, that the UCLG, which is the overall body for cities and local governments and local government associations, has placed a lot of emphasis on SDGs. But even to decentralize that, let me localize it even further. For instance, the East African region has its own East Africa Local Governments Association. And one of the things, one of the things that is happening now at the East Africa Local Governments Association, a report is being done on how the local governments of East Africa have localized and mainstreamed SDGs. So that report is currently being done and will be, you know, will basically be utilized at the, you know, executive committees of the East Africa Local Governments Association, so that we look at how the 6 countries, by as you know, as East Africa, how we are doing in terms of localizing SDGs. Also at the UCLG level, and you will find that the UCLG constitution, which was revised in 2016, takes cognizance of the Sustainable Development Goals, and, you know, emphasizes the need for the continent moving together towards achievement of the SDGs. Thanks, Sid.
Thanks, Rosemary. Tinema, do you want to add something? Because you're on the other side of Africa. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Mm.
So what was it you want me to add?
Do you know if in this part of Africa that you are, that the countries are working together, or Sierra Leone is working together with other countries to achieve the Agenda 2030 as Africa, as the whole continent working together? Do you know something about this?
Yes, we are working with other countries to achieve the agenda. Even we also have this, what is it called in fact? The National Union Agency 2016. Like Sierra Leone is a blueprint for implementing of national agenda, including the Sustainable Development Goals and that of the Africa Union Agenda for 2063. So Sierra Leone, we are doing it. And as a country, we only have one local government. And in that local government, we have 22 councils. So everything that is done in one council is being replicated into the other councils.
Perfect. Thank you. People, thank you for sharing this with us. And now we are going to fly to Latin America, to Bolivia, where it's still morning. Edgar might be having a coffee while he's watching us. Edgar, are you there to make the last presentation, but not the least important?
Okay, thanks so much. I think I was thinking, why me? Why you are doing this to me? Because I was waiting.
For me, it's lunchtime. I'm feeling hungry.
Yeah. Okay.
And James was sleeping. You just woke up.
Yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity. So, ti saluto Martino, è un vero piacere averti qui. Come si dice? Buongiorno, no. Buongi, así. Y te saludo a ti también. Un gusto verte en todas las reuniones del CGLU. Yeah, well, let me just present. I just want to say something quite little, because I want to share the experience of La Paz as a BLR, as a local level measurement of the SDGs. The municipality of La Paz is the capital city of Bolivia, and has made an extraordinary effort to localize the SDGs as a local level. So I am very proud to present it, because fortunately the document was mentioned in the Gold Report in the HPLF in New York, in 2 reports that Emilia Sainz has presented it, and I am very proud of it. So the first document that we started in the SDGs measurement was this, no, this little document that regards 5 of the 5 SDGs. We used a survey, household surveys that measured in 2018, and this was made the first. This is how we made our first BLR. The 2 years later, the UNDP and the Municipality of Madrid in Spain and the ARPENUD in Belgium help us economically to make a new research, a new survey of the SDGs. And we got this document that is 2018 measurement, and it's called Agenda ODS. And the survey was made by us. It's a different way to make documents like that, like this one. And we use also indicators of poverty, special indicators for employment measurements, and it regards more than 300 questions. It's large in, it takes 1.5 hours. It's too long, but the benefits of doing this is that you involve the whole community in La Paz and also private sector, but not regarding the companies. So you are taking importance to the inhabitants of La Paz. And with these documents, we develop other documents like this. That is the yearbook of 2018. With the information of this survey, we develop our yearbook, statistical yearbook that is local. And also another researches like that is quality of life. And regards new municipal policy regarding the quality of life in the municipality of La Paz. So that's the situation in La Paz. And also in July, we we have our SDSN represent in Bolivia that called Red de Soluciones para el Desarrollo Sostenible de Bolivia. It's a sustainable development for sustainable development network that published this document. That is an atlas that measured 339 municipalities in Bolivia. And it measured, it's a crazy thing that measured all the municipalities in our territory, in our country. And we were proud to present with SDSN because they call us to present our document, and we make some matches about their research and our research. So that's a very how can I say, it's very, it helped us to have a whole view of the country and how is the situation in regarding the SDGs of other municipalities. So we can work in our gaps, in our indicators, and we can share also our expertise with them. So that's what I want to say about the BLRs. Unfortunately, Bolivia says that are going to be in 2021 in New York, but till now I don't know which document is working on. I don't have access to the BNR document yet, but I hope they are going to make reference about our work. I don't know, but Emilia Science and UCGL do this work, and we are proud of it also. So that's what I want to say with our colleagues here in this webinar.
Muchísimas gracias, Edgar.
Obrigado.
Let me ask you one question. You have showed us a lot of publications, and you have already shared with us the link of some of them. How population in La Paz they have access to these publications? They are in public libraries. They are given in schools. How do they access this? Because they are very good accountability and transparency actions of the local government in terms of not only of the agenda, but of their own policies. So I would like you to share with us a little bit about that, how it's accessible to population.
Okay, the advantage of this document is that it regards inside 3 methodologies approved by the UNDP in Bolivia. That are rapid integrated assessments that's called RIA, also bottleneck and hotspot that you can use. You can refer the indicators in maps as a territorial measurement. The way that we involve the whole community or socialize this document is by HTML. It's a web pages. We have our own repository of data, like a library, and all the documents are inside this repository. We call it repository. I don't know if it's in the same word in English, but it's a library. It's a digital library, and we have also meetings with university and research institutes, and we made this document in easily reading, because we want to the other people can understand also how do we measure, what do we mean with the SDGs work. So I think we are reaching all the social societies involvement, but we are looking for some budget to involve them in other situation and build the new 2021 BLR for La Paz. So I think that it will be our 3rd document, and we can also work with the people, work with other neighborhoods, and they are going to let us know what is the situation in their own lives, in their own situation. So I think that it will be possible, and we are going to have results. And I am going to work in writing a new document and share with all of you in the next year.
Thank you very much. Thank everybody for being here with us. Martino, do you want to make any comments on this wonderful presentations that we have in the 2nd round?
Yes, and again, thanks, Cid, thanks everyone. I mean, many inspiring, I would say, comments and experiences. Lots of food for thought, and I think that the question of data is something that is clearly on top of our agendas as well. And I think that It's something where local and regional governments, together with national statistical offices, have lots to work on. It is quite critical for what concerns the reporting and the monitoring, because without data and without information, it's just a narrative about whatever we do. So we actually need some substantial data to support our statements. And that is something that emerged quite strongly, and I hope that we can really work together to do so. But really, I won't be that long, but saying again, thank you for your experience, and thank you, Cid, for your moderation. And I'm happy to see that you guys are like much more advanced than, I mean, then I thought, I mean, that like, let me say the reality. I thought that it was a discussion a bit more broader. Instead, you went into the details of something that is quite also difficult somehow to navigate in. So congratulations to you all, and I'm kind of very happy to see that you are involved, happy, and active in localizing the SDGs in your own territories. And I'm not saying this because I am in the UN. I'm saying this as a citizens of the world, because we need people like you, people like us, doing this dirty job, which is very important for everyone. So thanks again, and have a nice day, everyone.
Thanks, Martino. Aren't they wonderful, those students? It's an amazing group. They're doing a wonderful job all around the world. It's always a pleasure to listen and to see and to read the documents they produce. I have been learning a lot with them. And unfortunately, this is our last session. Our course is coming to an end in the following days. You have until the end of this week to upload your final work. And then after that, you're gonna get rid of me sending you messages and asking you to do your homework. So once again, thanks for being part of this. Thanks for sharing your knowledge with us. I hope you have learned as much as I did. At least now we have social media, so we can keep in touch. And during the week, if you still have any doubts on your final assignment, you know how to find me. And I hope to listen from all of you soon. Fernando, do you want to say something?
Yes, Cid. No, just to thank you all. Thank you, Martino, and thank you, Cid, for always, and thank you all the participants. This is, as you said, this is the last webinar of this online course of this year. We had like more than 100 participants, if we are going to count on the English, the French, and the Spanish course. And it's the last webinar, but it's just the beginning of our work with you. We count on you as future trainers and future multipliers of the training with your workers in your cities and associations. And then we keep in contact, and we consider you as the future focal points for the multiplication of the SDGs localization. We stay in contact and at your disposal for anything you may need with our longtime partners and other trainers. Thank you very much, Cid. Thank you, Martino.
Thank you, Fernando. Thank you, Martina, to be with us today. And see you soon. I hope you still have a very good end of the week. Bye-bye, people. See you soon.
Bye-bye. See you.
Bye.
See you.